Welcome to this World Satsanga held on the 25th of September 2021 in conjunction with Kevin Moore and The Moore Show. And there are more of the docu-series, they call us channelers, that Kevin's put on his YouTube channel. So I encourage you to go and have a look and see what's there. Lots and lots of different individuals connecting with the greater reality in lots of different ways. And some of them are, as we expect, very high quality. And some of them are not so high quality, but the whole thing is that they're all contributing, so it's all good stuff at the end of the day. So let's have a look at today's agenda. And the first one is a talk about working with the current reality. And with the current reality being a little bit all over the place at the moment, it's probably quite a reasonable subject to discuss. Then we're going to go through a bunch of questions we've got, and we're a bit short on questions this month, which is fine. I don't have a problem with that. Just like to remind you that from January onwards, the Satsanga will be held via Zoom, and it'll be about a 40-minute Satsanga, of which I may well do the meditation outside of the actual live Satsanga. The questions will be done live via the Zoom chat, and they'll be taken, first come, first served, so to speak. I'll announce that towards the end as well. And also we're going to look at the end of meet meditation, which is going to be based upon a request to provide a meditation to dislodge and send to the light any and all astral attachments to our energetic templates and chakras. So I think that's going to be quite a good meditation to do. Okay, so let's have a look at the talk first. So how do we deal with a reality that is as it currently is, which is a bit, shall we say, random, uncontrolled? People aren't taking responsibility for what's happening around them. That includes our major world leaders. People are in a level of, shall we say, full acceptance without accepting that which is around them. Well, the thing to do is to carry on, basically. Carry on carrying on. If we let that which is around us affect us, then we will, in effect, be affected by it. So, I know that sounds quite obvious, but it's surprising how many people don't accept that which is around us and get completely frustrated by it. And frustration, of course, is one of the main reasons why we lose our frequential levels, and therefore we sort of drop down the frequencies and lose our communicative ability with the greater reality, either via our intuition, which is clairsentience, clairaudience, or clairvoyance. We also lose things like our ability to focus properly or in a coherent manner when we're doing our meditation. So the ultimate thing to do is to keep your counsel. Keep good company. Keep your good company in good company as well. And in this particular way, you will be able to maintain your own frequencies. It's very important in these days to stay close to yourself, so to speak. Stay detached from what's around you, whilst also being aware of what's around you. It's very, very important to be disconnected whilst being able to maintain your responsibilities. So what do we mean by this? Well, in effect, what we're doing is allowing things to happen around us, but they sort of wash over us and don't affect us. So things that appear to frustrate us, things that appear to stop us from doing what we're supposed to be doing, things like red tape that come from nowhere, decisions that are unbelievable decisions from people around us. We just have to work with what's that, with what it's there, with how it presents itself, and move around it. It's a little bit like trying to find the hole in the fence. We have to work down the fence until we find the hole, and then we can pass through the fence from one side to the other. Now, if this is particularly relevant if somebody's closed the door that was previously in the fence or locked it, and you have to find another way through from one side of the fence to the other. So in this particular reality where we've got everything happening around us, we've got the potential for so-called global warming or environmental change. We've experienced a minor pole shift on the Earth, because the Earth does wobble on its axis on quite a regular basis, and this also affects the way in which the magma, or the molten core of the Earth, rotates within the hard core of the Earth, what we know as the surface of the Earth, and this affects our magnetic fields around us. So this magnetic field that's around us is part of what we use for our GPS systems and our our compasses and the way we navigate around the world. So we've got all of these things happening, including the different weather systems that are affected by the change in the magnetic force of the Earth, and the change in the pole shift, which is affecting the weather. And along with this, we've got completely incredible reliability on leadership that is completely incompetent or incapable of doing things properly. And we've got the response that we've got in a, sometimes it's coherent, but mostly it's incoherent way to support what we're classifying as being a world pandemic. So we've got lots and lots and lots of things happening around us, which are, albeit putting us in a potential situation that is similar to, but not exactly the same as, of course, what we would classify as a world war. So we are no longer being allowed to be in a situation where we can do what we want to do, except that we can do what we want to do, provided we are maintaining our own posture, our own spiritual posture, to make sure that we continue to keep on track with our evolution. We can maintain our meditative practices, we maintain being of service to others, we maintain our resistance to be involved in gossip and deriding other individuals. We maintain our ability to see things for what they really are. And we also, more importantly, maintain our ability to just look at all the souls that are incarnate on the planet, and that includes those that are in the animal kingdom as well, and other various different lower sentience levels or lower evolutionary levels that are also participating in this particular location within the physical universe in its local frequential state, and enjoying the levels of individualized free will that we've got, which is also an honor. And just really revere it, really sort of understand that we're all struggling. Everybody is struggling to do what they're supposed to do. They're all struggling to follow their life plan. Most of us don't understand what that life plan is. We just get feelings about doing this or doing that. And some of us resist these big changes. But the thing is to understand that we're all souls together. We're all working as hard as we can do to experience, learn and evolve. And that the vast majority of us don't understand this. We just see ourselves as the human form, and that human form is precious to us, because it is. It's a vehicle that we need to use for as long as it can be here to maximise our evolutionary potential. So when you see people, and everything around us as being sentience that is temporarily here, and everybody is struggling to do what they need to do to be able to experience, learn and evolve in the way they've chosen to experience, learn and evolve in this particular incarnate state, then you start to feel more love for them. Not I wouldn't say sorry for them when they're struggling or having problems, but more kinship, more kinship, or appreciation for who they are and what they're doing, irrespective of what they're doing. You can see people just busying themselves or moving around and getting frustrated or struggling or being successful around you. You just think to yourself, well, these people are immersed in their incarnation. They aren't so lucky as us to be able to understand a small part of the greater reality that we are truly part of, and not this microcosm of existence in a specifically low frequency environment that we find ourselves for a terribly short time. So when we work with this particular reality that's happening now, and I've said this a number of times, I'll keep saying it again, just try to ignore that which is nonsense from your perspective. Work with what you're doing in a responsible, robust, repeatable, service-based, loving way, and you will continue to do so. And as you do so, you maintain your own frequencies, and you help and assist in maintaining those frequencies of those people around you. Now, clearly in these situations, there are going to be spiritual people who drop down the frequencies, they abandon spiritualism, because all of a sudden they find it's too hard to do meditation, and they may think that it's done nothing for them. Well, it has, but it's not specifically visible at certain times. So again, you have to support them in the way you can do. Don't coerce them or try to persuade them, but simply support, and maybe give them the odd hint that we are in a situation where the environment is affecting us in a really quite difficult way. This is an amazing time to be able to resist quite a rapid drop in frequency and assist in our ascension of that frequency back to where it was, literally 9 or 10 years ago. So based upon this, really resist the opportunity to become low frequency. Stay high frequency, still be of service. If you go to a church, then fine, go to a church. If you go to a spiritualist church, fine, go to a spiritualist church. If you continue meditative practices before work or after work or before you go to bed or as you rise in the morning, continue to do it. Don't worry about things suddenly not happening, or your connectivity with Source or with the greater reality or other entities that you may have had fleeting contact with in the past, but now you find extremely difficult to get into the same mindset, so to speak. Don't worry, just keep doing it. Keep doing the good things. Keep being the good individual. Keep being the good citizen, so to speak, and you will assist in the ultimate rise in frequency that will happen over the next 5 or so years. It's important that people like you are continuing to think, behave and act in a high frequency way. Don't get pulled into karmic thoughts, behaviours and actions which are low frequency. Don't get caught in the thought process of me, being selfish and not worrying about what your selfish actions do to others. Always consider your actions and how they affect others, how they affect the environment, and how they affect those animals that are part of our environment, the insects, the birds, the fish, etc., etc. Be clear, be mindful of what you're doing. Always consider what you're doing. Always take the considered view of what you're doing. Always be aware and awake of how you can respond to people in a much better way. In these low frequency times, it's ever so easy to get pulled into arguments, to get angry, because that's what low frequency is. It's anger. It's lack of trust. It's lack of understanding. It's quick to anger, slow to understand, if at all. So really, really, really take your time in how you answer. Look at how people can accept the answers to your questions. Recognise when they're going down the anger route, and do your best to not go down there with them. If they suddenly start to think that their argument is right, don't agree with them, but maybe say, well, that's your thought process, and your opinion is up to you. But don't go down and agree with them, because that's colluding. That's collusion, which is also karmic. Simply move the discussion onto something else, and you can use the words changing the subject dramatically, if you want, or simply say, actually, I don't have any viewpoints on this, so I can't comment. Those sorts of things can negate low frequency energy and the downward spiral into angry discourse. Consider how you can interact with others in a neutral way. not a good way or a bad way, but one that is going to be neutral in terms of how it affects people, whilst also maintaining your high frequency. Your mere presence keeps things high frequency. Interacting with sometimes creates a potential where we might drop down the frequencies. So just stay detached, stay aware and awake, and do the right things. Be in the physical but not of the physical. Very important term. And just realise that actually you create your own reality in doing this. So you keep that which you hold dear to you, your high frequency existence, a high frequency existence, because you refuse to have your high frequency existence dragged down the frequencies into those who have succumbed to low frequency thoughts, behaviours and actions, because it's ever so easy to. In this low frequency time, it is so easy to drop down the frequencies. It's like falling asleep. But it's really hard to keep high frequency or move up the frequencies. It's like trying to wake up. You know, it's trying to wake up when you're so tired you can't move your body. That's what it's like. It's like falling asleep in a cold environment where your body potentially dies from hypothermia. That's the way. It's resisting the feeling of giving up. Don't give up. Create your own reality, your own high frequency reality. Keep good company. Be aware of how you interact with others. Be detached. Be neutral. And above all, create your own reality. And you'll survive this strange alternative reality that we've suddenly found ourselves into, because we all effectively decided not to be responsible for maintaining our reality, and then things that shouldn't be part of the reality sneak in and change the reality. Well, I hope that helps. A little bit long-winded, I guess, but nevertheless it needs to be repeated at some times. And it is very hard, you know, it's hard. Everybody, spiritual people, normal people, everybody find it really hard in this particular time, in this particular version of human civilization. You know, it's extremely hard, especially when if you have a partner who, you know, was spiritual or was just dropped down the frequencies but still think they're okay. That's the one thing you have to watch out for. People, friends, family, loved ones who still feel they're spiritual but are quite clearly, or have quite clearly, dropped down the frequencies and are thinking, behaving and acting in a low frequency way which supports this particular, should we say, reality, or the paradigm that supports this reality. Okay, so let's have a look at the questions, shall we? And there's a few questions here. Let's just have a quick look. Most of them are from Jay. Okay, so in fact there's just the 6 here, so I'm going to spend quite some time on the meditation as well. So first question is, if somebody asked Origin or Source Entity for a request, would they ignore the request and leave it to the person's guides to help them, or would they try to accommodate that request? The Origin is a significantly higher level of sentience. It's higher volume of sentience and higher level of evolutionary sentience than a Source Entity, even though the Source Entity is an individualized unit of energy from and sentience from the Origin. Our true energetic selves are similarly a smaller level of sentience and energy that is individualized from Source. And our souls, or our smaller aspects, what I'd like to call an aspect, of sentience and energy from our true energetic selves. So in effect, we are all Origin. We're all Source Entity. We're all our true energetic selves. It's just that we're at a different level of volume of sentience, so to speak, and we have different roles to do, because what we're doing is addressing the minute detail in terms of experiencing, learning and evolving. So when we ask for help from Source or God or our higher self or our guides and helpers, really what's happening is that even though the guides and helpers may be supporting us or may respond to us, they are also part of Source. So in effect, any response that comes to us is ultimately a function of Source, which is ultimately a function of Origin. So it happens that that request is accommodated, but we need to support the request. We can't be needy children who specifically want to have, let's say, a lottery win, for example, and then they expect the source for us to win the lottery. There's a wonderful there's a wonderful cartoon, and I think I've said it in a previous Satsanga, where a person meditated and finally said to Source, I'm really struggling with my financial situation. Can you make sure I win the lottery? And Source booms into its head, of course, my child, I will make sure that you are looked after in this way. Several months later, the person who meditated and asked Source to help him win the lottery started to get a bit frustrated and a bit angry and a bit impatient. Meditated again and said, Source, you haven't accommodated my request. You haven't helped me or made me win the lottery. And Source turns around, you've got to help me sometimes. You've got to go and buy a ticket first. So we have to look at it in this way, is that we can't be needy children. We have to also support our requests of Source by helping Source help us. So we have to meditate on that. And in some instances, this means we have to consider ourselves to be in abundance. We have to visualize, see, feel, taste and touch that which we want to be, that which we want to happen. And every time we think about it, we need to sort of see not just something that might happen in the future or a different reality or a different event space. We have to know it's happening. We have to know it's happened, and it will happen. So we have to assist Source assisting us in our requests. Okay, and that is, we have to use our own creativity, which is born from Source, to make that which we desire manifest. Okay, so a very good question. Next one, do any of the invisible energetic beings directly interact with people at their request, or are they all observers? For example, angels or service personnel, for instance, caretakers and sprites, those sorts of things. You can add into those things nature spirits or elementals, and of course guides and helpers. Sometimes they do. Sometimes they manifest a form which is very close to the gross physical. And some of us have had instances when we've talked to somebody or been given guidance by somebody, and we've turned around and that individual's gone. And that's because a guide, if there's something really important we need to do, or some really important decision or change of direction we need to do, then they will manifest something or create something that makes us move direction, or gives us the answer that we need, or solves the problem that we need solving. So they do directly interact at times, but sometimes that interaction is momentarily and out of the corner of our eye as well. Okay, and some people actually feel something close to them, like the brush of air going past them, or like somebody's put their hand on their shoulder, and that makes them feel that there's somebody there, and all of a sudden they turn around and there's nobody there. Okay, there's stories of people as well who've suddenly been pulled back from walking across the road, and then a car's come screeching around the corner, or a bus has come screeching around the corner, and they look around and there's nobody there. Those sorts of things. Those are the sorts of interactions you might experience. Next question. Does origin or source entity interact with the incarnate life of their own accord, or are they strictly observers? Well, basically, we are origin and source, and so that we interact with incarnate life on behalf of source and origin. So from that perspective, although they are specifically strictly observers, we also are observers and interactors, and as such, everything we experience, learn and evolve from our interactions is also experienced by source and origin, albeit in the way that, although we know the atoms in our body interact with other atoms in our body, we know that happens because the gross physical body is created through atoms and the smaller levels of structure below that. But we don't, as a larger sentience associated with the body, we don't really pay attention to what our atoms are doing. So it's a bit the same for the origin and the source in terms of how they understand or how they experience in totality the levels of interaction that we have with the physical environment and other environments within the multiverse. Okay. So next question is, what is the best way to interact with one's guides and helpers? Can one ask for a new guide or helper? The guides and helpers are entities that we work with over a number of different incarnations, and they sort of take us up to certain evolutionary levels, and they hand us on to other guides and helpers who take us up to a different level as well. It's quite common for the helpers to move on with us and assist the new guide who takes us up to a different level. But in terms of asking for a new guide, we tend to get the new guide when we've moved up an energetic level. We can't ask for a new guide, basically, because we have worked with that guide. We've worked with the guide in previous incarnations, and the life plan is a combined decision process between ourself, our true energetic self, and the guide and helpers. So, to change guides midstream is from our request is not appropriate and is unnecessary, and is actually pretty much impossible to do. There are the odd occasion where people have two guides because one guide's handing over to another guide, or one guide is working with another guide, and we have two guides that way as well. And there are the very, very rare occasions where somebody has no guide or helpers. But that is a completely different scenario as well. So the best way to interact with our guides is through meditation. We see ourselves communicating with our guides and asking for assistance in terms of how we would like a particular problem to be solved, or guidance on how we may interact in a particular circumstance, for example. Okay, next question. If a blind man was walking down a road and there was a hole in the ground, would the invisible energetic beings allow the man to fall into the hole, or would they then try to stop or prevent this upcoming accident? That depends upon whether falling in the hole is part of that particular experience, that aspect in the body that has no sight has decided to experience. If falling down the hole is part of the experience, then they will fall down the hole. If it's not part of that experience, then something will happen to negate the possibility of them falling down the hole. Now, that may well be that somebody else will come along and guide them out of the way. It may well be that their blind walking stick spots the hole in the ground, and they move to the left. They stop and they move to the left or to the right. It may be that they change direction suddenly, or it may be that the hole in the ground has a barrier there, or somebody else comes along and helps them. So it depends upon whether it's part of their experience or not as to whether they fall in the ground or whether they guided around that hole. Okay. Next question, and actually the last question. If somebody asks beings to interact with them, would they, or are they observers only, or do they really not even observe incarnate life, as it doesn't really pertain to them? The don't really like getting involved with anything that is part of the evolutionary cycle. They see it as a restriction. They see it as stopping them from being what they are, which is basically individualized, pure origin sentience, albeit smaller versions of it. There's a book I'm currently writing now, which is basically my channeled working with the origin, working with the but they are, in essence, they don't really want to be here. I mean, the fact that there's a couple of here, pure or have been here, is a very rare occurrence, and usually are hybrid They're of a very low percentage of sentience associated with the creation of the the uncreation of the that was a function of the creation of the source entities. So you do get hybrid and hybrid source entity energy in souls that are like that, or true energetic selves that are like that have a different percentage of sentience that is not particularly one type of sentience or another. So it could be sort of 78% source entity sentience that's individualized, and it can be 22% of the origin sentience that was not reassigned as source entity sentience that ended up being sentience, so to speak. And then there's higher levels of volume, which create the non-captive and captive Om, which are either maintained or captive within the energies of the source, but are still individualized and don't incarnate. Or you got those which are basically outside of the source, but do move around by the sources. And you get those which are really pure Om, which don't want to get involved at all, in general. And if they do get involved, or there's one of them that wants to experience something, they are, to be quite honest, aghast, and don't want to be, want to sort of persuade that other Om to move out of those frequencies ASAP. It is very unlikely that an individual will be able to interact with Om, because there are not many of them. Certainly the pure ones. They might have more chance of communicating with a captive Om, for instance, or a hybrid Om. There's more chance of that than there are the non-captive Om or the pure Om. So they would, and basically, although they have interacted at some points, certain types of Om have interacted with the Earth and assisted or directed certain civilization directions, the pure Om that would 99.99 recurring for sort of a billion significant figures, but to the right of the zero of the point, sorry, won't be interested at all. They have a different function, which is to be themselves rather than to be involved with any form of evolutionary content or creativity that creates responsibility. They want to move out of the creativity possibility that creates responsibility, or that may even bring them into the evolutionary cycle. They do evolve, of course, because they are, if in effect, sentience that is individualized, but not by design, from the origin. So in effect, they're straight origin sentience, if that makes any sense. Random free radicals, I start to call them. They are, but they are in essence just simply, let's call it unfocused origin sentience. And by unfocused, it means it's not sentience all in one particular volume, in one location. They move around as, let's say, like dust specks on the air within the atmosphere. That's the best way to describe the Om. They're part of the atmosphere, but actually they're their own they're their own being, so to speak. Okay, well, that's a good set of questions there. We're moving on, and let me just go to this meditation now, which is basically to remove any entities from us. I'll just repeat the request. Would you please provide a meditation to dislodge and send to the light any and all astral attachments to energetic bodies and chakras? So, astral attachments can be simply low frequency gunk, if you want to call it that, like an amoeba. If you've got very, very minor levels of intelligence, or it can be quite intelligent, but not have the ability to metabolize its own energy, and therefore create some form of relationship, symbiotic relationship with an incarnate soul, or it can simply just want to attach itself, take energy, and not form a symbiotic relationship. This is quite a common thing as it happens. You won't be surprised to note that the vast majority of incarnate individuals who are immersed in their incarnation have some form of astral entity attached to them. They tend to attach themselves to the auric layers, which are the byproduct of the metabolization of energy from the chakras through the energy templates to animate the energy templates on behalf of the soul, which is of course sentience and energy. And they sometimes attach themselves to the chakras, and they can sometimes hide in the little gaps in between the vortices that are there to in effect pull in the sub-frequencies associated with the total frequential set that a chakra is ultimately designed to function with and pull in to animate the energy templates at that particular frequency level. So there can be anything from slime to any particular animate form that you particularly desire to think about or create. They take on all sorts of forms, from arachnids to imps to humanoid figures to amorphous figures to things that we are particularly frightened of for some bizarre reason, like arachnids or snakes and those sort of things. They will take on board whatever they think they need to take on board as a shape at times to make themselves less visible to us. We tend to shy away from or look away from that which we don't like. And so the astral entities, if they've got a significant level of intelligence, will create an image of themselves in the light of our fears so that we look away from them subconsciously so we don't see them. Okay. So, having described them in all of their various, the plethora of different forms and intelligence levels, let's look at this meditation to remove them. Okay, so close your eyes. If you're sitting on the ground, you can sit in cross-legged posture, half lotus or full lotus, or kneeling if you prefer the Zen side of meditation. Or if you're in a chair, sit in a straight back chair with your feet flat on the ground, your back straight, your neck straight, your hands palm uppermost on your upper thighs, and your closed eye vision gently focused on the origin of the spiritual or third eye, which is in between the eyebrows and above the bridge of the nose. And I want you to just focus on yourself and just feel yourself around energetically, around the different energy templates. Recognize your body as a series of nested, but all in the same space, just separated by frequency, bodies. I mentioned before, think of them as like a matrix, but I think that's a three-dimensional or volume-based matrix, yeah? But just see yourself as 7 bodies, all in the same space, occupying the same space, but separated by frequency. Each of those bodies has a chakra that is predominantly represented by them. For example, the first energy template, which is the etheric body, is predominantly represented by the root chakra. The emotional body, which is the second energy template, is predominantly represented by the sacral chakra. So as you decide to, if you want to separate out these bodies, you'll notice that the chakras are all visible on each level, but on the level that you're at, the chakra that is represented by this frequency or works on this frequency is particularly visible. The others might appear to be like shadow-like, for example, or not particularly solid. If we extend each chakra one by one, then we raise our frequencies to the level associated with that chakra. So let's do that. Let's make ourselves higher frequency. Let's give ourselves 7 levels of frequency above where we are now. Now clearly all the chakras are always open, but they're on tick over, they're on neutral. They're doing what they need to do to sustain the energy template that they are associated with. They're doing what they need to do to allow the soul to animate the body via the energy templates. But if we extend them, we visualize them being bigger than they are, growing from their point of origin, like a cone. Think of an ice cream cone with the small diameter closest to us and the largest diameter further away from us. The point of origin for the root chakra is in between the two legs, with the two legs meet the lower body, generally in the area of the sex organs, is a vertically opposed chakra, so it points down towards the ground. Just visualize it growing to its largest length, which is around 30 centimeters or 12 inches, and rotates clockwise in the same direction as you would see, looking out of your eyes, a clock second hand, if that clock second hand was on the floor in between your 2 feet, going from the number 12 to the number 3 to the number 6 to the number 9 to the number 12 again. So if you visualize or ask your chakra to extend and rotate, it brings you to the first level. You can do the same thing with the sacral chakra, which is a horizontally opposed chakra. The horizontal chakras, which are the sacral, solar, heart, throat and spiritual or third eye chakras, have two. One pointing out or projecting out from the front of our body, and one projecting out from the rear of our body. Psycho-spiritually, the front chakras are our intention, the rears are our action. So whatever we do with the front, the rears copy faithfully. So we don't need to worry about the rear chakras. So if we extend the sacral chakra from its point of origin, which is 7.5 centimeters below the navel, that's about 3 inches, then rotate it clockwise. Again, if you want to, you can visualize a clock on the wall in front of you. And again, clockwise rotation is as if you're looking out of your eyes to that clock on the wall. And the second hand rotating from the 12 to the number 3 to the number 6 to the number 9 and back to number 12 again is the correct direction of rotation to allow energies to be pulled into your chakra and raise you to the second level. We can do the same thing on the third chakra, the solar chakra, from its point of origin, which is 7.5 centimeters or 3 inches above the navel. And again, visualize it or describe it with your mentally spoken words, growing to this larger 12 inches or 30 centimeters length, and then rotating clockwise, and we come to the third level. Let's go to the fourth level then, by doing the same thing with the heart chakra. Its point of origin, of course, is at the center of the front of the chest, in the middle of the sternum. That's the bone in front of us that joins left and right hand aspects of the rib cage together. And again, ask it to grow, extend out in front of us to its larger size of 12 inches or 30 centimeters, and then ask it to rotate clockwise, or visualize it rotating clockwise in the same way as you've done for the previous chakras. And this brings us to the fourth level. Now we can do the same thing for the fifth level, which is the throat chakra. Okay, its point of origin is at the center of the front of the neck, in the area of the Adam's apple, if you're a gentleman. Okay. Follow the same process, extend and rotate horizontally. This brings you to the fifth level. And then we can can go to the 6th level by doing exactly the same thing with the spiritual or third eye chakra, which is it has its point of origin in between the two eyebrows and above the bridge of the nose. Pretty much in the same location as the spiritual or third eye itself, occupying the same space but not the same thing. Okay. And this extension and rotation clockwise brings us up to the 6th level. And finally we can go to the 7th level by extending to 12 inches or 30 centimeters up towards the ceiling, the second of the vertically opposed chakras, the crown chakra. And again rotate that clockwise. And again, if you want to visualize a clock stuck on the ceiling, then rotating clockwise is following the second hand looking out of your eyes, then that's the way to do it. Or you could just describe it with your mentally spoken word. This brings us up to the 7th level, which is quite a high level really, considering we tend to reside in the very, very gross physical, which is the first 3 frequencies. And then just see everything as being high frequency. Visualize yourself a little bit like the heating element on a cooker, going from being black or cold and gradually getting hotter and hotter, so it becomes a slightly dull red. See yourself getting hotter and hotter, or higher frequency and higher frequency. So the dull red goes to an orange glow. See yourself getting hotter and hotter, or higher and higher frequency. So the orange goes to a brighter orange, almost yellowy colour. Then see yourself getting hotter and hotter, or higher frequency end again, and that yellowy colour of yourself goes to being white. And then see yourself getting hotter or higher frequency again, and that colour goes from being white to iridescent, bright white, almost imperceivably bright, so bright that you can hardly open your eyes to observe it. Now use your mentally spoken words to make the following statement. I am so high frequency that any astral entities that are lower or equal to the 7th level for the higher astral entities can no longer adhere themselves to me, either on my auric layers, my energy templates, or within and without of my chakras. Imagine them all being burnt off or rejected, or they slip off your very, very high frequency body, auric layers, chakras and energy templates. And that energy gets sucked away. Visualize or state that very close to you there's a ventilation shaft sucking very, very hard, very powerfully. And this ventilation shaft brings all energy in that is random or stray and reassigns it to source and its vast bulk of energy that its sentience works with. So you return into source, all of those entities that are dropping off you, being projected off you, all melt away off you. Everything is coming off you, dropping off, dripping off, melting off. Any that try to reattach themselves to you bounce off. You're so high frequency they can't stick to you. They drop off your aura. They drop off your energy templates on all the levels. They have to get out of the gaps in between the vortices of your chakras. They cannot stick to you. You are like the most effective Teflon that was ever invented. If any entity tries to get hold of you, it just drops off you. Nothing can attach themselves to you or be attached or continue to be attached while you're this supremely bright, iridescent, white, high frequency individual. Everything drops off. Think of yourself as being too high frequency for anything to stick to you. There is nothing that is not your energy that can possibly stay within and without your auras, auric layers, within and without your energy templates, or within and without the chakras, or the gaps in between the vortices, or actually within the vortices of any of the chakras. Everything has to get out. Everything melts, dissolves, or is projected out. It gets hoovered up by this very powerful suction from this air ventilation system that's close to you, that repurposes or recycles the energy in the sentience, if there's any sentience at all, which there shouldn't be. Just simply intelligence back to the source. Astral entities don't possess sentience, simply intelligence of various different levels. Feel yourself becoming cleaner. Feel yourself becoming more mobile. Feel yourself becoming more sprightly, more vital. Feel yourself becoming less tired, more awake. Keep your concentration on being this supremely bright, white, high frequency light, this thing that is too hot for comfort, for anything to stick to. If you remember hot metal, white hot metal, any water that's dropped on it simply forms a ball and dissolves away, evaporates away. It's the same for any astral entities that may be within your auric layers, your energy templates, or within and without the chakras and the vortices that create the chakras. You should feel really clean and clear now. You can practice this once a week, or whenever you feel the need to. We don't need to close the chakras down, we can come back into the room. The chakras will slowly come back to their normal state of projection and rotation. If you want to close them down, just simply use the reverse of the process we use to open them, which is to stop the rotation and then collapse them back into their normal size at their normal point of origin. Or if you just leave them as they are, and you come back into the room in a moment, they will very gradually close down back to their normal functioning size and shape and rotation. And I'll do that over maybe the course of a day or a day and a half. So slowly come back into the room. Slowly open your eyes. And if you can, take a drink of water just to help ground you. And that's the end of this Satsanga held on the 25th of September 2021. Well, thank you very much for attending. The next Satsanga will be in October, on the 30th of October. And again, this is the countdown for the next Satsangas. The start of 2022 will be based on Zoom, and you can dial in and ask your questions via the Zoom messenger, and they'll all be recorded again and broadcast via the website. And links, of course, to those broadcasts will go onto YouTube and via Facebook and via Twitter and LinkedIn, etc., etc. And you can download them, so you can play them yourself or watch them via YouTube as well. Okay, so thank you for participating. Thank you for being high frequency. Do what you can do to maintain your own high frequency reality around you in this rather crazy time. And stay safe, stay high frequency, and stay of service to others. Namaste to you all, and look forward to meeting you all energetically in October. Did you see the aliens in Crete?